them to be proactive marketing those members.
Okay, revenue for the yacht club, we have an increase by 75 grand. It's broken down into multiple factors.
Guys, I can't.
Excuse me.
Food truck of 105. We did have a decrease of regular food by 70. Increase of beverage banquet by 23. An increase of facility rental by 16. They make up the overall increase year over year by the 75K. Payroll increase, we did increase one full-time staff person. Some of that, a portion of that has to do directly with the ACA Act, Affordable Care Act, where we have this year-round person, as well as just the sheer numbers of running a nearly $2 million operation with the numbers of people. So this guy's been, the positions is one of the kitchen area, but he also does all the receiving, inventories, and those types. So we've increased that. We did have 2 seasonal people for the new initiative of the food truck, and that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. Contract services, we have an increase of $20,000 in total. That's a breakdown of our entertainment increase of $8,000. Some cleaning increase of 10, increase in cleaning supplies by 10, and decrease in linens by 8. Utilities up 32K, and that's 32.4. I'm sorry, and that those increases are just based on how the averages, and promotions and discounts increased by 10. The area that I want to draw your attention to, let's start with the new initiative of the food truck. So I think that's going to be the most interesting one. That's the one towards the back of this section. It's towards the back. They're not numbered. It's one of the last one. It's one of the last ones in the capital project worksheets. Okay. What we looked at was areas where we had some weaknesses, where we thought we could, I bring new initiatives every year, come up with 1 or 2 items. This is one that we've talked about a couple of years, so we decided to go ahead and put it out there this year. But basically, we're looking at a food truck. I tell you where the inception this year came from. We had, or kind of the push to put it back in this year. If you all recall, we were doing some cooking outside of the yacht club on the deck area. We found out by the health department that's not acceptable in the way we were doing it. As a nonprofit, once or twice a year you can do it, but as a restaurant, you have to have a special permit to do it the way we were. And in doing that, there are other requirements such as drains and water and just a number of things that go along with it. And from there, the discussion went into other ways to accomplish it, which would be a utility trailer that had food service, a food truck, those type of things. Just and again, talking with the health department, having a completely enclosed that already has those items in it. So, with that being said, it led us down the path of going to a food truck, and we started talking about what other venues, what other ways, where would this become a vibe, not just, how would we utilize this? So if you look at the pages following it, we actually have areas identified where we would use the food truck. One of the big things was the Mumford's Landing pool. We've looked for the last 2 years since the new club's been built over how to serve the pool area, get the food, over to the Mumford's pool. We've designed a menu strategy, which are a couple pages back from where all this is in one section. If you go back there's a different menu items for different areas. So we've gone through it in that much detail. We've looked at other areas, and we didn't list them all on here. Areas like concerts in the park, farmers markets, looking at the movie nights in the park, family fun nights, big truck day, Easter, 4th of July. This be utilized in all of those areas as a food service opportunity for us when we don't have one now.
Your shoulder weekends, is that like going to the beach club? Take care of that?
Not necessarily. We didn't think the beach club would keep it within Ocean Pines, but
It's like bringing the beach club amenities to Ocean Park.
Well, what we're trying to do is just offer more value. I mean, more opportunities. So, if you look, and don't turn to the page of it, but if you think about all the things that are listed under Rec and Parks, all the different activities we do, we could easily combine it with any of those as well. So when we started going down that path and started looking at how this might work, developed the schedule. When I say we, Jerry did a real good job with our yacht club manager at developing a schedule, where it would be, the hours that would be in each of those locations, the cost associated with it. We did food costs, menu items. So this was a new initiative that would be managed by the yacht club team and service our community broader than just at the yacht club facility. Other items, they were the primary areas I wanted to bring to your attention. The food truck would be a new purchase item. Obviously, we don't have one now, so it's not replacement. So that would be a new ticket item. There are availability. We've been looking at different areas where you can buy them complete, you can buy them used, you can buy them new. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to buy the food truck with the right type of equipment inside.
That's what I was going to ask. This price that here is a
all-in
truck.
Yeah. We actually looked at, the first thing we looked at was, and we had it, we ran kind of numbers on both. We had a trailer similar, but with the trailer, you've got double the parking. You've also, because you got to tow it. You've also, you have to pick up your food in the morning. You can't leave it overnight. There's some things that go in it. So just tying it all to the truck allowed us to manage our labor cost a little more intensely with it. And the driver they're not towing a trailer around. So it made more sense for us in the big picture.
Well, at the grill on the outside patio at the yacht, what kind of sales were you getting when you had that out there?
I don't have those numbers, and I don't have those with me. I mean, we can try to follow up.
How popular that was when it was out on the patio.
It was.
Itself.
I mean, I can tell you just from. I can't give you exact numbers, but it was popular. We were busy out there. People loved being able to just walk up and get their food and walk away.
Well, I mean, $12,000 Friday night. Is that realistic?
I would say easily, but I don't have those numbers. I don't want to tell you something not factual, but I don't see why that. I don't think that would be an unreasonable number of the 1,200. I'll try to validate those for you, though. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Well, I have to say again, this is sort of entrepreneurial. Numbers. I would question the costs first. If they don't like licenses and permits, insurance, and maintenance on the truck, these labor hours and so this kind of shape. This is that. It's chump change. I don't think. Maybe
a couple grand. I mean,
you appreciate it. Well, in one way or another, it's going to last so long. So give it 10 years, But that's just one. Yeah. I think I've been on the patio when I would have liked that truck Friday night or happy hour, and the place is crowded. Nobody, and I've had a beer and I'm hungry. But so we end up having to get a beer all you can eat again, and then wait another hour, 45 minutes to get inside and get a table to sit down. When a hot dog suffice, hamburger better. So I mean, the idea that you don't have food out there by the tiki bar. Now, I've never ordered the tiki bar to find out how much to get it, but I guess you can.
Yes, sir.
And have but anyway, I mean, I kind of agree with the idea that would like it. I do have a question. about thinking T4 again, where it would be. And how do I want to say? I do not think, looking at the picture, and that parking it out between the T4 and the fire pits, I guess that's what I'm thinking.
No. We'll leave it in the parking lot. You think of the parking lot where the pool, between the pool and the side, that side of the yacht club, the same side the pool is, right in the parking lot there.
Yeah.
We're not going to drive it up onto the patio.
You are going to use the parking space.
2 parking spots, yes.
Okay, so it's going to be in the park. I was going to say that.
Yeah, for your
would
exact
be pretty
reason,
ugly.
in there, parking it up on there between the, we kicked that around. We thought, no, we'll sacrifice the 2 parking spots there.
You do have a bit of a hike to get to.
Wait, right up.
We don't want to pull it
first-
up on the
That
pavers.
first area before you. How to explain things.
No, right on that side, the pool side of the building.
Right.
Right there.
Very
Yes,
close
there's
to the
to the
pool.
front. Yes.
Very close to the pool. There's a patio area easily put up right there.
There's next to where the band is.
It would be behind where the band.
Right, behind
Yes.
where the,
Yeah, and that way
Towards
it's
the parking
accessible
not that much closer.
to using the car and that whole area there.
Up on the pavers. It's certainly a possibility, but for the extra 25 feet or so.
Well, but you're not losing 2 parking spaces.
No, I understand.
So it sort of serves a dual purpose by keeping the 2 parking spots and making it closer.
Fair enough. Yep.
I guess, the one thing I know you won't like this probably, I know.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah, I mean, these entrepreneurial ideas, one of the things that happen, if we're going to do something, you show this as budget is an additional source of revenue, budget, that may happen. I would feel better about the idea if I could guarantee that I would see this as revenues and expenses, all expenses, including licensing. Blah, blah,
All right,
blah.
well, at $2,000 licensing fee and
Yes.
permit, I can tell you that's going to more than cover it.
I would like, I want to see, what I want to see is a tracking of what it is that we get at. I mean, make it whatever.
Just want to see a separate line.
I want to see it in enough detail so I know. And in the past, so for an example, not that I care really about this one, but cool. Swimming racket club, we put that ball, root farm in, and we see the revenues coming. There's revenues, and all the expenses are all pushed to everything else. So, and that's in aquatics budget. And I guess, I look at that as being something there just I really don't care about whether they make money or something. But on something like this, and certain other past things, I really would like to know. And are you prepared to track revenues and expenses against this particular?
No, again, you're making a request for something. We broke it all down. I thought we'd already done that, but again,
you didn't
if
break
you're
the
asking
point.
me to add something to monthly controller support so you can watch a $5,000 initiative, board votes to do it, then I absolutely would do it. It would take a majority board vote to do it. And that's something we could certainly talk about. Again, you're asking for more accounting detail on a very small item. You want that, more than happy to provide. But understand, it takes time and energy and manpower to do those additional steps. That's all.
Well, you have division for it, but
We do. We track everything we do. So Jack.
I've seen these things around Worcester County at the airport, certain functions, things of that nature. I would like to see us again, test market this before we make a capital investment in this. And to me, the best way to do it is to contract with one of these vendors, have them set up the truck on a weekend, give it a shot, see how successful or how unsuccessful it is, and do it ourselves the following cycle. That's I think creative thinking and looking at ways to generate revenue is a good thing. I really do. And I think that's one of the things you do think out of the box. I will give you that. Do think outside the box. So there's nothing wrong with the concept. The problem that I have is it's untested to me. And there's another thing in here that I need you to explain to me. There's a capital item that has Java Cafe by it. And I know, going back, 2 years, that Java Cafe did not have a good reputation.
Factually inaccurate. That's your opinion, but I'll give you.
No, it's not my opinion.
I'll give you why it's on.
Other people have told me.
I'll give you why it's on there. The sheets themselves, the worksheets. Okay, we actually should just change the name. These we pull up every year, so they just didn't change the top part of that. It should have been changed for the Marina building.
Where is that? But
It's the next to last.
One of the capitals.
It's the last. But anyways, that's my comment on the truck.
Marina
On
building.
the truck, and it is. That's after it's a. Bunch of data.
So are there, Bill, you had a question?
Yeah, there's a couple more things I want to say.
If Jack's done.
No, I'm not done.
Okay.
So Jack, your other question?
Right after food.
All right, Bill, what was it? I'm just trying to get done so we
yeah,
get done. on time.
The other item is you've got kitchen air conditioning, $15,000, but you have it coming out of replacement reserves. Shouldn't that be in general expense? Your worksheet, yacht club,
Yeah, we got
capital
it.
expenditure budget.
We heard the question.
Yeah, I just put it as upgrading the existing system. I just put it in as upgrading the existing system, and I took it out of the.
So there's an existing system there.
Yeah.
Okay. The glass tables, what are they replacing?
They're not. We're adding. Well, what we're doing is enhancing the tables that are there now.
Well, then therefore, should that be replacement reserves or should it be
replacement.
general?
When
Why?
you're upgrading an existing facility, you can take that as replacement reserves, as adding, finishing off something you can do that.
In other words, you're replacing an inferior product with a better
We're
quality
improving.
product.
You're improving. You're improving a product.
You're
You can
replacing
do
an inferior
Totally
product.
Sir,
legit.
we're not. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Just say yes to that.
Yeah.
The old one stinks.
Okay.
you won't remember 2 minutes from now.
Yeah, and by the way, Jack, that's right. You're right, Jack. I'm not making up that answer. I've had discussions with our auditors about this.
Tom.
I may be wrong, but was there a problem putting high top tables around the TV bar because of the amount of parking places as opposed to seats?
Yes.
So how are we putting 5 tables and chairs outside the patio at the cafe if that's a seating issue with tables?
Different timing. Early morning for the marina. Different
Will it be
venue.
taken
It's
away?
not at night. Yes, we won't use those at night for service. We can't. We're not
You can't
allowed
have
to.
coffee there at night and sit outside
We can't have food service out there.
at night.
That's county, right?
Correct. That's a county requirement based on our spacing.
Okay. But we can add them in the morning.
Yeah, because everything else is closed down, so we don't run into the maximum capacity issue.
Am I correct
So
that
those are different tables, different type tables? I mean, we can't just move 5 tables over there in the morning?
These are tables that match the tables for the pool area. They're the same type of tables, aluminum tables. So we use them over there if we need overflow. Yes, sir.
Back to the food truck. When I first saw this in here, I was like, I'm not sure. Are we allowed to take this over onto the beach club for both Corvette weekends, both classic car weekends, and St. Patrick's
I haven't
Day
explored
parade
that.
and all
That would require permitting or licensing to
Yeah.
do over there. We can
Yeah.
certainly look into that if we decide.
I think we're getting those. I know I walk in that St. Patrick's Day parade where there's definite need, both sides.
Well,
And it's our own parking lot, right?
Yeah.
It's our parking lot. Exactly.
Yeah, I
That'd
just-
be a home run.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
that's
do.
right. I'm with you. I'm with you.
You're right, it would be.
Permit for the
Had not thought about it. Yeah.
It's not just shoulder.
No, it's a good idea. Again, we welcome ideas. So
That's,
What was that idea?
that'd be an interesting.
Taking it to the beach club for the parade days and stuff like that.
You couldn't keep Columbia sandwich on that truck.
Yes, you got it.
you're right about that.
You got it. Yeah.
Good idea.
No, for the record, I think this is a great idea, and I've asked Jerry. Jerry's definitely behind this. You know, you and Jerry have worked on this to put this together. I think it makes all the sense of the world. And there's lots of people that go to these swimming pools that don't have food that would just love to have this truck show up, give us some money.
you got 55,000 for the truck. You have to increase personnel, right, Bob?
It's budget.
It's budget.
Yeah, we wrote that.
I say you got to increase personnel.
Absolutely.
I understand. Yeah, understand. And the benefits go along with increasing personnel. You got that
Oh, and
It's all
contention,
calculated.
that problem, that
No
challenge.
Problem. No problem. We already calculated.
Okay, I understand.
So why?
So it's not just the $55,000. There are ancillary costs associated
which
with
we've
the
told you
project,
about,
as well as the inventory, the food, and what have you.
which we've identified and told you about.
it's line 388, line 401.
Right, but you add it all together, what do we come up with? What's
A positive net revenue
what's
of
the,
14.
as Bob would say, what's the all-in cost?
Well, the bottom line,
Gotta add insurance.
add a couple of
English
grand.
guy.
Yeah,
Guess what?
so the bottom line.
To the good, over and above cost. You sure?
I
62 to the good.
gotta say, I concur with Tom, and to answer your issue, I don't even think it would matter that it makes money. I think it will make money, but I think it's a great service for our
Oh, it is.
community.
Great good little service for the
Totally
people.
in favor.
Absolutely.
Well, we'll see a couple of personnel. It's a boom.
It will be if we do it.
Okay,
I'm just telling you.
I mean, you got the majority of the board here. I can see that. I know that. But I mean, if it's a
I said that with a smile,
boondoggle,
Jack,
her
but-
comment is going to be totally different. I know where you got that. What, boondoggle?
I also thought it wasn't a good idea when I first looked at it. But after I thought about it, I saw this, everything else, and how it's going to be used. I think it's great.
Terrific.
I don't.
That's a great endorsement. So
I'm-
what's the all-in cost? Ballpark?
I don't. You know what, Cheryl? I don't mind. I mean,
There's
agree
net
with you
revenue
on
of
that. I don't
105.
mind if it was-
Net revenue of 105.
It's on the
But I do want to know how much it costs.
162.
I don't,
Okay. And that's
I
what
don't
I
think
was.
it's something to ask, right?
You can net
Yes.
105.
Okay.
No, I was just looking
Agree
at
on
just
that.
the cost before you even get to the revenue. I just want the cost. I didn't want the net.
35 for personnel, 5 for paper goods.
Can I ring the bell?
You supply a
Can I ring the bell?
Hey,
Let's go.
I live in Jersey City, and they had.
Tom, you had other questions?
This is, so,
Any other questions?
Cheryl, any other questions? You got something related?
Not a question, but I think that, well, Bob and Pat know because of the meetings that we have weekly, but this is always, I have like this hot 3 list. The yacht club is always at the top of my list because I am very interested in making sure that yacht club is the best that we can make it for the community because we've got a lot invested in. And for example, there was money expended at Christmas time to decorate, and it was fabulous. It looked great. And I think trying to replicate that off-season type decorations is appropriate. We've had so many people comment that the environment there is sterile. People use cafeteria-like descriptions. So I think we need to spend some money to make that as attractive as we expected it to be. Let's put it that way. So I think that is one thing. What's going to happen? People have talked about the tiki bar, sitting around it and getting sunburn on their back. Awnings was a suggestion for alleviating that problem. Something like that, I think, is something for us to take a look at. And then additionally, partitions, both downstairs and upstairs, to, again, cordon off the space appropriately, and on the second, to permit multiple functions to be occurring. I think when we were given the plan for the yacht club to begin with, I believe that we're going to have partitions like they have at the hotels that you pull out of and divide up the space. And that didn't turn out to be the case, but it's my understanding that it was built from a weight perspective to accommodate that. So I think we need partitions there, and we can use that space for clubs who want to use it for a meeting or whatever, or multiple small events could occur at the same time. All of those things, not the club stuff necessarily, but other kinds of things could be revenue generators. I think we need to get the most use out of that facility that we can. That's why we built it. That's why we did. And so I'm in favor of spending some additional money, plus, of course, my overall desire to spend more on marketing.
And they have a big sign when you walk in, neon sign.
Well, signage is a part of it, but advertising, marketing in other ways, that I think there should be additional dollars built into the document for those things that I've just enumerated.
Okay, we can certainly get some pricing on awnings since we did one 3 years ago at the Beach Club. Just getting out there outside awnings. We can come up with some pricing on that. If partitions there are two types of partitions. We're already currently looking at a more permanent partition element for the downstairs. We haven't looked at anything for us. So we're working on something along that lines. But to your point, we did not put additional decor type of items in the club this year. So if it's something that we wanted to add, good. I can get a general price for it next couple of days. We already have items listed, so all I have to do is add them up. The other thing is, as far as the partitions upstairs, the facility was built for those partitions, but they're definitely not they're a very expensive item for something of that size. In other words, they're mounted, they slide. Yes, it's designed for that. And
oh, I forgot about sound too. Sound baths upstairs.
Okay. Again, you're talking, probably with the partitions, your six-figure numbers for the ones up, for the big ones you're talking. The sliding ones with the weighted ones, not unlike the partition behind you, but obviously on a much larger scale. And when you mention the ones being sound, the sound deadening, which you would need up there, you're talking about very tall, and you're also talking very expensive. We just we didn't feel going to that level for those this year was appropriate for us. The decor we just didn't put in and probably should have. That was a miss on our part. So we're slowly putting items in, as you all have seen. We just keep adding, as we said. But this is a year when we should get a little more aggressive with it. So if we wanted to put a dollar amount in there, we can certainly come up with a rough number.
Well, as I know building budget by form play. You ask for the moon, you know you're not going to get it. So I'm just telling you everything.
Understood. So we can certainly have a rough estimate the numbers for the majority of those items requested.
Those partitions, how many do you need up there? How is it?
Upstairs or
Yeah, how is
downstairs?
it designed upstairs?
Upstairs is designed to partition the room in 3 different elements.
3 room.
Yes,
What's the height of those partitions? Do they seal?
they do. I don't remember the exact height. They're tall, though. I mean, remember how tall? They're tall. What's that?
I don't think they, in that particular use, you could go all the way to the ceiling, but they would be very tall.
They'd be very tall, right? They wouldn't go up because of the type of ceiling that's in there. But the floor is set up to handle weight of the. We put the design of the flooring and the design of the trusses above. We can balance the weight for those heavy soundproof partitions. That was the design of it. So yes, that's been part of it. But it's basically 3 rooms, and then you have to look at a partition across the back to separate with door. They actually make partitions that have a door in it, so that it's designed for that. We have not gone down that path yet. That's an engineering. That's going to take more than just putting those in the budget at this point. I mean, we certainly can, but you're probably talking a couple of $100,000. Put 1, 2, 3, plus the back one with the doors in it for the weight of the ones that they're. That's a ballpark. I remember they were terribly expensive. We looked at putting them in. We said after a couple of years, seeing how we use it, we would then regroup on that.
Do you think it would probably be coming through the hallway, one partition there, partition there? That's space that would.
Different options. You certainly can, but the challenge with that, you have to think about the flow out. Yeah, well, you have to think the flow out of the kitchen.
Well, you have to.
But you go with what you just did. You're changing the flow of the kitchen. I know it from the design of the building. I understand where you are, and you're saying it's cheaper just to put 2 in with a door on each. The flow of the kitchen actually would have to come through far one. If you have 2 elements going on, you're then pushing the flow out of a single door that comes into the hallway to get food to the other element. It was designed the in and out doors to put a wall 4 foot where they come out there and they run the hallway and go to any of the 3 rooms. Again, just if you hadn't thought about it or looked at it, but we had put that in our design process to understand how it would impact the flow out of a kitchen designed for banquet events.
But you can. That's.
I can tell you 200,000, and we can put it in the budget. I mean, that's really what it's going to be somewhere near that. Talking about those weight partitions. I mean, they're just not cheap for the size, just the sheer size, height, and length of them.
How many times?
I don't know. That's what we'd have to go and break down.
I mean,
well, here's the challenge with meeting rooms. Just FYI, you're now trying to multi-purpose a building that's set up. We do a lot of setups ahead of time for weddings, events. That's where our success point's been. You're going to put, when you start putting partitions, when they're mounted, they're mounted. Now, they do fold up semi-flat, but I don't know if you've ever seen them. One of the best areas for anyone that's been up in the Baltimore, D.C. area, Martin's West, Martin's East.
Yeah.
They have, I mean, that's where we got our concept from. But they do fold up, and they do take up room space.
Like a gymnasium.
What's that?
Like a gymnasium. They cut the gymnasium.
Yeah, similar type thing, but they're nicer looking. But when you think we're maxing capacity, we're with the success we've been having, and I believe we will continue to have and grow with our wedding and banquet events, some of the bigger events. You may have some impact on some of that. Just you're cutting out space. That's all I'm telling you. Not a lot, but every little bit counts. We're maximizing wedding. I mean, they're actually marking dance floor to get exact number of seats. It's more interesting, more dynamics to it than I expected at first. But good thing we got a team that knows how to do it.
But there are times when you don't have like that going.
Agreed.
And so that would be a time when it could be utilized in another way.
Again, if we want to multi-use that facility for other than food service, we certainly can. That's a board decision if that's what you all want to do. I think with the success we're having up there, I'd be really careful. Again, when things are working, I tend to add the enhancements to what's working. Our price points have increased. We've had success there. It's just it's designed for that. And if you all say do it, we'll certainly go down the path.
Well, that's an effort to try to get the most out of what
I understand. I'm not arguing. I'm pointing out all sides of it. If you all want to do it, tell me to put it in. We'll put it in the budget, move down that path. I mean, that's simple. Just tell me to put it there. That's the simplest. I'm going to tell you it's a couple $100,000. There's no doubt in my mind.
Well, we're not at capital things yet, anyway. So
Okay.
I was actually going to bring that up.
I'm
but
just throwing all these things out for discussion, like
It's only $25 more. That's add it on to the number.
Only if it's
I'll
accurate.
say, wait a minute.
No, it's all right. No. All right. Any other questions there, folks? All right. Marinas are next. Actually, revenue increase, net fuel, 17 grand, and yearly slip rentals are up 8. Positives. We actually have, just as an FYI, a waiting list now, like we used to have for the marina area, which is actually nice. We had a little shift around with marina. We had the yacht club manager, as he was initially overseeing the marina area. We've modified that a little bit. It doesn't change the bottom line for the. It just moves it back to totally in the yacht club. It takes it out of marina. And what else can I tell you? They were my highlights in there. We do have. We budgeted to replace the ice heaters. They're several years old and starting to fail. The water lines are starting to break on us. Ones that are under the dock. We've scheduled to replace those. And the gas dock, the roof that's on there is starting to fail and crack. We need to replace that. So we've identified those as replacement items. And we've put those in budget to do so. Yes, sir?
Your margin, just doing quick math between your fuel sales and cost of goods or cost of has been going up, in the last 3 budget cycles. Since we're faced with a deflationary situation. Well, I don't want to get into it, but anyway, fuel costs are coming. Gasoline's going to be cheap. Is that margin still in there? I mean, we're still looking at this at the same. As gas comes down, our sales obviously comes down, but the margin is still there.
Yeah.
So we don't have to worry about coming back and saying, "No, you were X number of dollars on the budget."
You never know what the sales are going to be, but based on our history,
No. I think the sales will be.
Well, you said sales are going to be down.
No.
I'm sorry.
I don't mean that. I said it wrong. If I said sales are going to be down, I said it wrong.
That's right. Answer
Your
your
profit
question.
margin.
Our regardless of the sales, yes, our margins are the same. I don't see us having anything. We've kept that margin there.
It's whether or not we can sell 180,000 gallons next summer like we did this past.
That's the only difference. Margin is still
You
there.
still got the margin.
Now you sparked a question for me. I'm sorry. But, oh yeah, here we go. You got a margin that's a percentage, right?
We do.
Okay. Therefore, if the price of the gallon that you're selling is less, that's why your revenue line on 389 for sales, you're not saying you're going to sell less gallons necessarily, but the price of it is going to be lower than it was this year.
Correct.
Okay, so that's what's driving that. It's not a matter of margin not being there.
We're saying
No,
the
I'm
same
not
thing.
arguing with you. I'm just
No, we're saying the same thing. Just coming at it.
different way. Both saying the same.
We're saying
There's the reason is the price of gas is low. Yeah. Okay. That's it. So.
No, you can't have me for your car, Cheryl. Sorry.
Your lights on dead. Just means the battery can go dead.
Figure out how.
Next one is Reserves, I believe.
Reserves.
All right, give me 1 second. Excuse me for one moment.
All right, I need to steal them real quick.
Marathon, man. 3 years.
I got him right now.
Do you still understand that you still?
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was told. In the old days.
For the budget?
Yeah.
So
Drinks
get around, get hammered, and all that.
Not anyone I was at.
Not anyone I ever went to.
Not anyone, and I've been to 31 of
If
them.
I'm wrong.
Yeah.
One open bar.
That's right. No.
No, never happened. Just ugly rumors out there.
No, just after the meetings were over, I'm sure everybody may have gone and had
Right over there.
or something. But not during.
That's what when we used to get pulled over to do a wiretap. They would say, "Who's running it?" They said, "Maryland State Police." I was like, "I'll be there." The first thing they did was be in the refrigerator.
Is that right?
We'll be there for 60, 90 days.
Suppose they were drinking hard liquor.
Just for beer. That's all I had. You're there for 12 hours, 6, 7 days a week, 90, 90, 60, 90, 120 days. Well,
All right, just as a heads up, just in case it happens, those sitting there can look and see the waterfall outside.
Yeah.
All right, the standpipe system broke. It broke last year twice, so we're repairing it. Public Works is on the way, but what's going to happen as that drains, it'll get to a point where it falls below in the standpipe system and the alarm goes off. So just be aware, they're trying to get here to get it shut off before that occurs. But
The bathrooms still work?
what's it? Bathrooms are working. Yeah, that's standpipe for fire suppression. So just so you know, if it goes off, don't. I just told the fire department they're aware of it, but don't. If you leave,
Don't panic. That happened last year.
it did. It happened last year.
Dave's already panicking.
Standpipe broke out front. Fire suppression system.
Seriously, stay.
Yeah. It's not a new featured waterfall feature.
Bill, seriously, stay on the.
I don't think that's my place to go in.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not. It's a joke.
Yeah, this is going to go on forever. I mean, this is going
If we're in a meeting,
Yeah,
if it comes up, I'd like to bring it in. But I will say, and
You should.
I'll say it in the council. I will say it there, because I'm there as.
Oh, it's an open
I mean,
forum.
that's up to you.
No,
It's
no,
right? You know, it's almost 3 o'clock. I say,
March.
let's just.
Second
Oh,
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
I don't want to be.
Yeah, by the time.
Well, hell, you might as well be like I was. I was a Victorial son of a bitch. You don't remember?
You guys have a schedule as to when you're meeting?
You.
You and Tom and
No, I know he was trying to set it up. So, yeah, see what happens. Oh, we got around to it.
only going to spend.
But we have a lot to do in the back page. Oh, going down the park.
What? Oh, how long are you going to spend?
A
couple of weeks, 3
Recycle that back next year.
That's why it was up.
And this is just going to be there's no point. I mean, just,
I'll bet you it looks like Winston. How much you gonna
Oh,
all babies look like Winston.
everything you name it, it's going to legacy projects. It's just going to be
You'll find any way to get yourself. Thanks.
well, that's exactly what.
All right.
All right.
Hold on.
Hold on. I'm going to keep rolling.
No, actually, we.
Now everybody's going.
Get back here.
H-O-C-K?
We got it.
Yell at each
We got it.
What did you say?
It's not hot.
You see the new grant?
Hey, no, what's that?
Paul,
What's the deal? I mean, we're going
Hey, when, last night? My girl. Last Friday.
No, listen.
Last week.
If you don't want to do it, that's fine, but all means do it all.
she better look at you.
I'm actually.
Just find it out. I'm the godfather. Just find it out. Grandpa.
No, I said I'm the Godfather. I'm just.
Oh, you're the godfather?
He is.
Congratulations.
We're going to.
Father.
Yeah, Brett is a meat. A cute kid.
So what do all kids cute?
Yeah, they are.
And they grow up.
Is this the daughter-in-law?
Don't have to make sure
Is that
everybody
Meg?
understands the page.
Cute kid. My dog's touching.
The one I hate.
All right. Are we ready to jump to reserves?
You have the
No.
reserves done?
What? It's done. Thank you very much.
Are you talking about this?
All right. Under the reserves section, let's just do a quick recap on the reserves for understanding. Page 2 of the document. I'm sorry, of reserve tab 22. Okay. Things I want to point out to you in this on this document, and I realize it's a refresher, a reminder for some of us, but even as a refresher, this document can somewhat get confusing. So let's walk through it. Yesterday, the comment came up, and I think it was Tom Herrick. We were talking about funding when it came out of reserves as a whole. And it was Jack and Tom. I remember looking in that direction we were talking about. Remember I said there was an umbrella. There are 3 columns, but it's really all under one. So if you look at this, start at the top. The first column are the dates. Move over to the next one. It says capital asset replacement. Okay? That title, capital asset replacement, has 3 columns under it. First column, historical. Second, legacy. Third, total. However, that entire bucket, all 3 columns, are actually reserves. Okay, so when you look at this, these are all the reserve components that we've been talking about over the time. The difference is the legacy funding, which as previously called 5-year funding, was designed for major capital projects. Okay? So historical reserves are all the components with the exception of major capital projects, which were identified in this. But they're all under reserves. It's all a bucket of reserve money. So the next one, the bulkhead and waterways, these are for the bulkheads. Again, we have a funding mechanism for that element. Future projects area. These are projects, in this case, if it's a negative bracket, would have been in a deficit account. However, we zeroed some of these accounts out last year. Okay, everybody remembers doing that. We have our roads, our golf drainage, okay, and then the recovery fund. This whole page shows you what our reserves are on an ongoing basis. So the biggest discussion seems to remain in the capital asset replacement, which is the first 3 columns, and then how we track those. But again, that's where the debate, as you all heard yesterday, Mr. Stevens and I are clearly on opposite pages on it, but we both do agree they're reserves. I mean, regardless of what you put in front of it, historical or legacy, they're still reserves. So they're replacement type of items. So they're the columns. Okay? Any questions under that area? Yes, sir. Whoever. Phil?
I don't want you to get your... In the guidance, we talk about zero-based budgeting versus baseline budget. As I'm looking at reserve contributions 2017 budget sheet, and under the operation deficit, I guess that's where it's deficit recovery.
Yeah.
In 2014, we had 135, 136. 2015, we had 135, 150. 2016, we got 135, 216. In 17, we got 135, 232. Each year we're we are looking at a constant of 135, and that's a shortfall. Is that correct? That's an operational shortfall, right?
That's to
He's
make
looking at
up for.
768.
Wait a minute. Let him go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, it's to continue reducing the negative retained earnings that we've accumulated so far. We still have what, $700 and some $1,000 that we're in negative. So we continued the operating deficit recovery fund to get that back to zero, hopefully, if we don't have any future deficits in
Are we
the
looking at
operations.
the last column here, the
No, he's
OPR?
looking at this.
He went
back to
he went
page
to
one.
page one, Dave.
He went to page one.
That's what threw me off. I had to find it too.
We went to page one.
one.
On the bottom, Dave.
Well, that's the OPR recovery,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is the last column on page.
Yes,
two.
yes.
Yeah, but he went to page one to read down it, and that's what I had to catch up to.
Well, but page one gives you the history
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
of actual contribution.
Yeah, so that's so we're still accumulating funds to offset the year-to-date balance sheet deficit retained earnings.
Where can we find the year-to-date balance sheet?
I believe you have the December report.
Okay.
Go to the very last page. I think it's probably page 10. I don't have mine with me, so yeah. You go to the very last page of the green report.
Got the balance sheet.
And every month you get those.
Yeah, and if you go down to the liabilities on probably the right-hand side, you'll see the prior year deficit. Down at the bottom. Should be like 700 and some thousand. Liabilities, equity.
You see it, Dave?
The last page. Yeah, page 10. Yes, I'm on the balance sheet. I'm looking at it right here.
Appropriated prior year. Okay, that's the amount that we're going against right now. If we include this in this budget, it will be somewhere around 410,000 of that 712.
Yeah, now this basically is the deficit that will occur from operations and phase
Yes, accumulated.
accumulated deficit.
Yeah,
We started this fund way back in 2007, $500,000 behind, but what happens every year is now I'm assuming the deficit also goes down when you have a positive at the end of the year. So
Yes.
that takes the deficit down. So we're going up and down, up and down, up and down. This is somewhere in all of this, and I lose track of what exactly it happened. We also included the IRS payment as part of the deficit, I guess.
Yes.
And that's the way to put it. That makes sense. So fundamentally, since we're running in the red for the last few years, we have to catch up. And we're catching up at a fixed rate, whereas we're not necessarily losing money.
Right. We just reached an amount, and that times the number of available lots gives you the. I know the number keeps changing down there, but our number of our lots keeps changing sometimes. So
now this 712 that you just pointed out to me, York, this is just a year to date.
yeah, it's cumulative.
So every month,
It's always
every
cumulative.
month it's changing.
No, not the prior year. That's the prior.
Oh, that's just the prior.
Yeah, the current year is not in there.
It's a balance.
What is the year-to-date 2014 number?
Yeah, we just we show comparative balance sheets this year, last year.
Okay.
Jack, did that answer your question, sir?
It does. What I'm hearing is that you are not budgeting for $135,000 operational loss. You are utilizing those funds to offset accumulated, deferred.
Absolutely.
We don't send the members a bill at the end of the year if we don't make zero. We take care of it
And
this way.
Dave explained it perfectly when he said if you end up with a surplus at the end of the year, revenues over, it also impacts this in a positive way by reducing.
Yep.
Yeah.
At
right,
some
got it.
point, we'll reach zero and go this way instead of that.
All right. Any other questions in this section?
What section? Reserve section? Oh, yeah. Couple.
All right, well, now's the time to ask. That's what I'm asking.
All right. Well, come on, see it.
Bill, did you have your hand up, sir?
I did. I've heard from several people that don't understand the term legacy.
Okay.
Can we simplify that to maybe major projects? Major projects from legacy. Legacy is confusing to me, and I know what the heck it is.
Bless you.
So, I mean, if just throwing it out there, just changing the name, keeping it separate because I think it's important to keep it separate, for transparency. But just changing the name to something that people understand what it's.
Well, do you think it's necessary, Bill? I mean, do you think this legacy column is necessary?
Oh, absolutely.
You do?
Yes.
Yeah, because legacy, I mean, I realize where the name came from last year. That was fine. But legacy tends to sound like, your history leading up till now and all that.
And it's going to be there forever.
As opposed it's the other thing that says major project. You get a point where there aren't any, So I think that's major project sounds like a good idea to me. Name it that, and then it's clearer as to what it is.
See, I don't agree that it's going to be there forever. I think when the major projects are done, this place, beach club, bridges,
Great.
And then there's no that
It can be gone.
$130.
Well, let me ask you this. This is
board at
where,
that time and say, hey.
well, this is where the confusion reigns. Okay. How long have those? I mean, you've been here longer than I have. How long have those bridges been there? Since 1972 or something like that.
How long they've been?
Oh,
It's that
since
right.
renovation now. So it's a replacement item, right? I mean, to repair a bridge, isn't it a replacement?
Two of them are replacement because we depreciate them, right? So we have funds accumulated for it. Two of them have not been depreciated to accumulate funds, but they are replacement, so they would be under the reserve column. Yes, sir.
Yeah, replacement reserves. But aren't the repairs under legacy reserves? Isn't the 425 under legacy?
Which is reserves.
No, but it's under legacy reserves. It's not under
Again,
replacement. I know it's
we
semantics.
did-
I know.
yesterday
That's
we-
why I'm wondering. Wonder why we need two columns.
Hear me out. Yes,
Why we need two columns?
Okay, to answer your question. Yesterday we said, as I said it then, as it was originally laid out, and the reason it remains in here, and again, the board can say get rid of it. I think it's solid to leave it in there because it highlights major capital expenditure. When I say major, to Dave's point yesterday, that's never been completely defined. It was going to be $500,000. We did a $300,000 element before. The wood duct was the best example. So that number moves a little bit, but it does clearly highlight major capital items the board makes a decision on to make a replacement. So it's still under reserves. It just clearly identifies the major capital items and a funding stream associated with those major capital items.
Well, okay, let me say, I would take blame that legacy bill.
It's not a matter of blame.
I made
blame.
it up
You
last
renamed it,
year.
that's all.
And under pressure in getting rid of the 5 plan, which was now an 8-year plan, and which in truth was a forever. Right. So And legacy came to mind because there are certain assets, we have certain assets, large assets, that were, go back so many years that if they were ever depreciated, then the depreciation has long since stopped. They were depreciated fully. They're still there. They're still pulling the board. Okay, so anyway, it was just a name that came up. I believe at this point in time, I have some specific questions. Maybe I should get to those, and then we can get to philosophy later.
Well, do we want to finish our topic of do we want to include it or not include it? Because I think that's going to keep coming up.
I mean,
What's that?
the point is that should $225,000 be taken out of something called the legacy reserves, or should it be taken out of the replacement reserve?
I believe that my personal belief is we should back to FS have a replacement reserve.
Right.
That we should combine those accounts, and we will end up in exactly the same place money-wise. In fact, you kind of misspoke a little bit there. All three of those columns are not reserves. The third column is total. The first two columns.
The total of the reserves
is the total of the replacement reserves.
Okay.
It's not the total volume.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, okay.
Third column.
If you could simply use the third column, scratch out the other. Okay, and then make. I believe that one column is more than sufficient. There is no reason or necessity in anything to keep track of that third column. We don't know how to define historically. The items that were put in there have been pretty arbitrary. I mean, there was reason for it, but there's no definition of it. Never has been a definition of it, and probably never will be a definition of what's major, what's legacy, what's not, what is. So you say, well, it's easier to track. My question, big question, is in total, how much money should we be putting in? We have too much money in there now, or not having. And I would maintain that right now we don't know the answer to the question, and that we should seriously, as we discussed last year, and I thought kind of agreed on, that we would. There is a point in time when the legacy money should either be cut back, making a direct impact on assessments, or eliminated at some point in the future. We all agree, if we all agree there's an end to this, you agree there's an end to major, Bill said something, that means we don't have to collect that. Yeah.
Well, I never said that.
You didn't say.
No,
Well,
absolutely not.
I
We
believe,
got too many things
I
to do.
believe that's true. I believe that, in fact, we can reduce the assessment, do it this year, by scaling back the amount of money that we're putting into this legacy 5-year planning or major projects, whatever you want to call it, reserve. And I believe that the
Utilizing the replacement.
well, they're all replacing
I understand.
utilizing the historical, what was formerly called historical segment of the replacement reserves. I think the amount of money could be significant.
Again, here's why I left it in there in its entirety for this particular year. If you recall when we did the referendum for the yacht club, we clearly identified the funding solution to be, at that time, the 5-year funding plan, which would carry us out till 2007, actually 18. And we told our membership that we would fund it ourselves under the legacy or 5-year funding solution at the time is how we would pay for the yacht club. We borrowed from the historical reserves because we didn't have nearly enough of accumulated depreciation. Talk about why that was the case to pay for it all out of historical reserves. So we set up this account, and it had for very transparent. Here's where the money was coming. So we borrowed from ourselves with replacement solution being that legacy funding. That's what's went out in the referendum material. That's what we spoke about meetings. That was our point of how we would fund for the new yacht. So keeping it in there at a minimum until that's fully paid off. Again, paying it off, we're paying ourselves. I mean, please understand, we're not.
Precisely.
No,
We're not borrowing it
but-
from
but-
anybody. We're simply taking it from another.
So from an accounting standpoint and from a financial back, it makes sense when you make a promise to your membership, whoever you make a promise to, you keep the promise. Our promise was we're going to have this legacy funding column to pay for. And until it's paid for, I think that remains intact because it's a promise we as an association made to our members in the referendum, which received approval to build the building.
Flesh that out for me, Bob.
Yes,
since the legacy's gone into place, since, you know, the date.
Yes, sir.
How much have we accumulated in that account, and how much can we account? I'm hearing numbers like $5,250,000.
Total.
$5,250,000 collected from
over the 8 years.
The inception till today.
Over the 8 years. It was.
Over the 8.
Well, I'd have to go back to 7 years. I'd have to go back and calculate it because it was a gradual increase. The 5 year, just so everyone understands, it wasn't 5 years and stopped. It was 5 years of. I'm trying to answer you.
Yeah.
5 years at a starting point, with an addition the next year, an addition, an escalator clause, till it hit that point of X. When it got to X in $130, $130, it leveled off at 130. So 5 years of step up, and then levels off. Then it stays to count for major capital projects. So over that, that's why I can't give you off the top of the head. $1 million a year for 7 years.
What I heard you say is it was specifically designed to pay off the yacht club, and we have not paid off the yacht club.
I did not say that. I did not say that. At the inception, it was for major capital projects. Again, started 10-year task force identifying all these items we need to pay for over a term. The board said, how are we going to fund it? I think it was a finance committee, a group of them got together and came up with this solution before our time. So they created this 5-year funding solution. Starting point, escalated this point, this would be used for major capital projects. Our referent, when we were talking about the yacht club, the question came up, how are we going to pay for the yacht club? We looked at options, borrow money, we can go to the bank, we get just all kinds of things. We narrowed it down, we pay for it ourselves. Well, okay, how much had we accumulated in depreciation for the yacht club? We were underfunded. So we said, okay, we need to think about, well, major capital project, it met that trigger. B, we have this separate funding column to pay for major capital projects. So we're going to take from there. Well, guess what? There's not enough money in there today because it just hasn't accumulated. We had other things, wood duct being one of the projects we did. So as it built up, we spent. So there was not enough to pay out of that. So what we did, we borrowed from column A, our historical reserves, to pay for the yacht club with this column, putting the money back in over the next 5 years, which took us 17 or 18. Again, 18 just because we shorted it a little last year. So that's how that worked.
I understand. And the greens also. Didn't the greens come out?
Yes, major capital project. Mm-hmm. So and again, clearly identifying. So trying to get your exact number, we can go back and calculate. No issue. I don't have it off the top of my head.
It doesn't. Yes. Well, when you calculate it, if you come up with $5,250,000, just a number.
Yes.
Don't pay any attention to it. It's just a number.
Okay.
You got a number there?
No, just.
Show me. It wasn't the golf green. Swimmer racket club project. The wood duck.
That was over half.
Wood duck 300.
Over 300. And then the yacht club and the yacht club pool, marina.
Wait, and whatever we felt like.
Well,
whatever we felt like.
Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
I mean, it's trying to answer this question.
Let me get to it.
Yes, sir.
So I'm sorry, Art. I didn't hear what you said. My hearing aids on.
We're giving you the items.
What?
The items that we spent money on.
Yeah.
Swimmer racket club.
Yep.
Wood duck.
You going to give me a number?
I don't have the exact numbers. I just know which projects they were.
Okay, yeah, fine.
Swimmer racket, 500,000.
Okay.
Wood duck, 300,000. Yacht club, 4.2. Yep. You said rough numbers.
What about the 5? The extra kitchen? Do we throw that in?
4.2. Rough number. And I'm about to give you the
4.8. I think it was like 4.84. Okay.
Inclusive of the
I'll
pool.
use your number, 4.
And approximately 8 more for the pool.
890.
Okay.
8888.
900,000.
Yeah, okay.
He said approximately. So there's
Yeah,
your
sure,
numbers.
sure.
There's your 4 major capital
And what was
projects.
the first one? I'm
You
sorry.
said something about the.
Swimming racket,
Swimming
Swim.
racket.
Swim. Okay.
What did,
Now,
did you say something for the marina?
It was all in the entire
It was all
complex.
Yacht Club project.
and the
Yacht Club
pool,
project.
that was all in. Okay, so in other words, what we have this legacy, and we are collecting 130. Well, like you said, it didn't start at 130. It graduated up, but right now we're collecting $130 per member, putting it into this legacy, and out of this legacy, we have funded Swim and Racket, Wood Duck Isle, Yacht Club, and the pool. Yeah, the pool that was destroyed by the
5.9 million.
yeah, some hurricane or something like that. Okay.
Yeah,
All that being said, my understanding was, the way it was explained to me, I can only tell you the way it was explained to me, that this particular account was set up to pay for the yacht club.
No, sir.
No,
I-
explain
I-
it to you.
hang
Hang
on.
on. The history of this thing is legacy account started actually under Dave Stevens. It started the year he was president. That's where the 5 years started.
So he started this.
He was voted in while you were president or Rayco, one of the two.
I was president.
You were president.
I actually, Pete Comsack said we needed money, and we were going to raise the fee, I remember, $100.
Yeah, it's like 30, whatever it is. But
dollars.
to
And I
answer
said
your
no,
question,
and I
Jack,
said, no, we're not. We're going to do this step approach.
in history, he came up with the stepstone, so it wasn't a big hit. But it happened 2-3 years before we even started looking at going to referendum for the yacht club.
Understood.
So when we said the yacht club materials, we would use that funding to help pay ourselves back for the yacht club. That's where people got it into their head that this column was for the yacht club. Well, it wasn't created for that. It was created for any major project. And we've probably saved somewhere, if you paid off the yacht club in 3 years, we probably saved somewhere between $700,000 and $800,000 of
Well,
interest.
If that's the case, taking it one step further, Tom, could that be considered a special assessment?
No,
Why
It
not?
wasn't.
because we can't do special
I
assessment.
know.
It's not a special assessment.
Why not? Why the special assessment?
It's part of the rate structure. It's not a special assessment.
But it's
Every single year, Jack, the boards had to vote in the next piece of that increase. Dave didn't vote it all in. Every year, every board had to increase it until it leveled
If
off.
I'm a member of an OPA, if I'm a member of an HOA, and we need new bridges, okay, and we don't have adequate funds in the reserve in order to fund those bridges, but we need to do that immediately, and we go back to the members and say, you're going to have to increase your payments by $100 a year in order to pay for those bridges. Why isn't that a special assessment? I don't.
First of all, the way they set it up was you used the word immediate. It's not immediate.
I'm sorry. What? It's not.
It's
what?
not immediate. They was set it up initially. I mean, they set it up. It's set up initially so that the money can be put in reserves when it was needed for Wood Duck and Swim and Racket and those expenses. So although we can't do an immediate assessment, it's not like a condo building that all of a sudden has to replace the roof and they have no reserves and they send everybody a bill. We didn't do that. They avoided that by setting this thing up, and it kept this being out of the picture. It went up a little bit every year, which I think was a smart way of doing it. Then it levels off, and that was an obvious source of revenue for us to use to pay ourselves back as opposed to borrowing the money for the yacht club.
So, since it is not a special assessment,
It is not.
we are going to institutionalize $130 each and
major
every year
project.
to each and every member ad infinitum, forever.
Not necessarily. If we don't need it anymore, we won't take it.
Well,
But right now, we have a commitment to pay back the yacht club. It was in the referendum material. That's how it was explained. And we have a commitment to our membership to live up to what we said we were going to do.
But see, we're going to create another deficit by funding bridge repairs out of this column when it should come out of replacement reserves. We're just going to increase the deficit and say we're never paying ourselves
This
back.
column, this column
Yeah,
is.
move it over a column. I don't care.
No, you
That's
can't.
fine.
Move the 500 under
You can't.
historical.
Tom, see, that's why I'm the guy. This is my budget that presented. Let me do this.
It's our budget.
No, it's mine to you. Then
It's his
once
budget.
you approve it, it's yours.
No,
Okay.
no,
So
fair.
Dave made that
Fair
clear.
statement, fair.
He made that clear
fair.
yesterday. So
Very fair.
I presented it. I believe this is a solid financial decision, and it's the most transparent to our membership when we make big ticket items to highlight those items. Commingling it with the other millions of dollars collected in reserves, in my opinion, washes it out by keeping big ticket items separate so people can clearly see it. We identify it, we track it that way. You're right, it's all reserves, but I think it gives the most transparent spending any board does today and well into the future. That's it. It's really that simple. If you all want to put it all into one, it's a board decision. But I think from a financial decision, to show our members clearly how we're spending their money, I think it's a very good way to do it. And we made the promise for the yacht club. Again, I will continue to argue and bang my fist till we get that at least paid off, because we made that promise. I was part of that promise. I was the one out there in the front telling people, here's how we're doing it with board approval. I'd like to at least stick to that until we're done.
I was there when the promise was made too, and I have recollection.
But you weren't the one positioning it. I was.
And, no, but I was sitting there and listening. But I don't want to get into that.
Okay.
That's just wordsmithing. I don't.
I
care.
withdraw.
I do not believe that. In fact, all we told that the yacht club is paid. It's paid for already. It's paid for with our money. It's paid for without any special assessment. It's paid for and it's done. It's and we don't have any bills coming.
We don't. No, that's fair.
So the promise to the people are kept. We paid for it. They didn't work and put any extra into it. So let's just let that one rest. If you want to disagree with me, well, disagree. I don't care. That's fine. But on the other hand, though, by collecting this, and you've said this in your whatever it is plan, you're going to keep collecting this money forever. I mean, that's well.
I'm sorry. Where did I say that? No. I'm asking. Where did I?
Yeah.
And what?
You
I'm
said
sorry.
it. It's your seventh. It's the seventh item on your list of assumptions. So I don't know.
Oh, the facility plan.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just asked where.
Seventh item on the list.
Of the assumptions that the legacy plan. Correct. That's the assumption I'm under right now.
If we take, if we move these items, merge the items. I am not saying that we have to look at the funding mechanism for that reserve, which is the only kind of reserve that we ever had before we started this stuff. The funding mechanism right now comes from March depreciation. I'm not saying that we do not have to provide additional funding for that reserve. We do. Putting it in a separate column doesn't make the slightest bit of difference. We're not tracking it. We don't have that. What we know is that we have certain items that are going to basically cost more as a whole than they will from the sum of their components, their depreciated components. We're sitting in right now. If we're going to replace this entire thing, take the sum of the components from what they are right now, we won't have enough money. I mean, we'll have to have additional. Not claiming that we won't put, but I think each year, depending upon what we have in front of us to do, what specific plans we have to spend that money, I think we make that decision, the additional money, on an annual basis, yearly basis. We don't automatically, as somebody said way back when, you guys have a great collection plan, but you don't have any spend plan at all.
Anyway.
any spend plan at all. Yeah,
Spend.
you're real good at collecting it, but you don't know how to spend it. All right. See, by doing this, okay, I will question and look at the total amount of money that we'll have left, which is kind of hard for me to figure out on this, and I do have some specific questions about it. But we're talking about something in the $5 million. After all expenses, we're still left with that in this combined reserve. And we don't know how to spend that $5 million.
Well,
Or $4 million if you want.
No, fair enough. Irrelevant to the number, just for clarification. We know our spending plan, okay, think of it this way, okay, and here's why I think this works. It's a little different approach. This is a way of funding your items pretty much like an old passbook savings account. You're putting money away, so when you need to replace an item, a car, a hot water heater, whatever the item may be, you put enough money away in savings that you draw from the savings. You don't have to borrow. That's how depreciation works. You know what the cost of the item is. You've spent the money on it. You know at some point you're going to replace it, so we start savings today knowing it's going to be replaced. So when you're looking at historical reserves, you say we don't have a spending plan. We may not have an approved plan on what the next 5, 10, 20 years looks like.
Next project.
It's the next project, but we do know we have 1,500 replacement items that we are going to spend money on. So this acts as a savings account to put a little bit away each year so we're ready when those items come due, when that tractor comes, when this building, big and small items come due to be replaced, we at least have seed money available to do so. And by doing it this way, when I say this way, including the legacy funding at the stream that it is, we've already identified, not me, this was done 8, 9, 10 years ago, and Mr. Stevens was a big part of it. 10-year task force identified future items that we were going to have to address. There's no question we're going to have to do something with this building. There's no question it's going to be expensive. So by having a sustainable, predictable savings contribution, and that's really what it boils down to, we know when it comes time, whatever board's sitting here that makes that decision, there are funds available to pay for it. That's really what it boils down to. It's not that hard. It's a predictable, sustainable, take it off the top of your check every week, put it away, you're going to replace your car light. You're going to replace your hot water, whatever it is, hot water heater, whatever. It's that type, but on a grander scale. That's all it is. So if this isn't Bob's plan, this isn't Dave's plan or Tom's or anybody in the room, this was something that a group started a while ago, and because trust me, and Jack, you'll identify with this. When I first stepped in this role, I was like, why don't we just borrow the money from the bank? Hell, that's what I did. I lent money all the time. That was my first thing, borrow money. But then I thought, what's put us in, overall, holistically, has our economy's put us in problems is debt. And I realized there were people smarter than me that crafted some of this savings plan, this 5-year funding solution. That's the old passbook savings. That's where it clicked for me. This is a savings account we're putting money into little bits at a time, so we're ready when the next shoe drops, when the next item we need to replace is there. That's probably the easiest way to explain it, but that's why I think it's sustainable and predictable. Our membership can understand it, and it avoids the up and down, the unpredictability. Someone owns a property, and they don't know what their assessment's going to be year to year. This gives us a more even out pass, so there's not the, oh my gosh, they had $100 because they had an $18 million budget this year versus a $12 million next year. That's all it does. It's a savings plan, for lack of a better term.
I think it's unfortunate that it does a lot of that. And I think what it does is it places a fund. We collect money without knowing what it is that we're going to do with them. And if you look at, don't talk about all the assets, let's just talk. If you look at the amount of money that we transfer from reserves in 2015 last year was $800,000.
Which we, please are we,
I'm just looking at the historical column. I know how much ARC puts in. I know how much we've taken out. And I've watched that number grow to over, well, right, it says here, 4.7 million. I mean, the other side of the coin is that we have taken and spent money on pretty much arbitrarily a duck aisle or a swimming pool, or we were going to build bathrooms at the beach club using that. Things that they came up. No plan. You want to see the 5-year plans? Any of you guys like to look at the original 5-year plans that we had when we built this thing and we started this 5-year plan? It's ridiculous. I mean, we talked about a $2.5 million, actually $1.5 million yacht club expenditure. And it turned out to be a $4.5 million yacht club expenditure. And, you know, why? Because we could. We could. And I believe right now we're at a position where we have more than sufficient money to meet our immediate needs. That is to say, the things that we know we're going to do, we're going to have to do. The bridges, for example, is one. I mean, we know that. I don't know exactly how much that's costing, but we have an estimate for it. And what else? I mean, some of the other items are, you know, easily paid for out of the money that we already have in the historical reserve.
Understood. And again, this is why I believe, and I said it yesterday and I'll say it again, that maintaining this schedule through this year with this budget cycle, based on the past promises we made, based on the fact that we don't have an approved forward-looking plan. I put something out there that's far more intense than the 5-year one that was done before. So that's something we can start kicking around. We're going to have a beacon study that's going to come out in the spring. In a week or two, actually less than a week now, we're going to end up with a reserve study that gives us solid numbers. This year is our Get Smart year with a lot of items. We're going to have a lot more good information to include. We'll start chewing on a 10 to 20-year plan look ahead. We've got the baseline now for it. I provided to you last week. We're going to have outside studies coming in. Everything's merging right now, so we can make good, strong decisions moving forward. No issue with it. But we do have a list of assets that we know we're going to replace in coming years.
But look at it from our point of view. And I gotta come down on Dave's side. I mean,
Jack, there's
no
surprise.
You look at 2011. You look at 2011. We got 3.2 million in there. Next year, 3.5. Next year, 3.9. Next year, 3.9. Year after that, 3.9. Then we spend it down to 3.7, estimated 3.714 in the forecast, back up to 3.9 million. It's almost as if we've created a baseline, and every time we hit that, boom, 3.9. We got to either stop spending, we got to get back to that 3.9 million. I think the point is well taken that if we have $3.9 million in reserves, then by golly, you know, we need to do the kind of things that are being proposed here in terms of capital expenditures. We have the funds.
You want to move capital?
And we don't need to replace those funds with additional assessments or the whatever you want to call it, the legacy.
I don't want to move to cap because I'm not done here.
Okay.
I mean, I think we talked about the philosophical aspect of it, and where I come down is I reduced that $130 that we're currently putting in to. I think we should merge those two funds, reduce the $130 down to $80 as a compromise. I don't know what we're going to do with the $80. I mean, it's still going to give us far more money than.
What would you reduce? What would happen if you reduced the $130 higher? You eliminate it. What would happen?
You'd end up with $3.9 million.
Pat, what you would do is have more money than we know how to spend. That's what would happen. Now, why don't I propose that? Because I'm checking. I'm conservative because I don't believe in doing things in big jumps. Obviously,
So,
like that.
so we're going to have a philosophical difference amongst the board members,
Yeah,
right? So,
I think so.
And again, there's no right or wrong. I mean, we knew this
I
was
got
going
you.
to happen, much like it's going to happen when reserve study comes in. We're all going to be kicking that around. So for budgetary purposes, would it be appropriate just to get a sense of, do we think we ought to leave it so we can
I
capture?
would like to ask some of the, I told you
Oh,
I had
yes,
some
sir.
specific questions.
Yes, sir.
And if we get off the philosophy, I'll ask the specifics. Okay.
Sure.
Art, on, make sure I'm looking at what have last year's and this year.
I thought you had a question.
The specific question is, in the transfer to operating, coming in, that's 2015, I'm in the right book. 2015, transfer to operating is 1459. And that's
1549.
Yeah, 1459. Yeah. Oh, there's 1549. Too.
Oh, which
What it is? That's transfer. No, the 1549 is transfer from operating. That's,
Right,
that's,
you're looking for-
that's
Yes.
goes into.
Right.
Okay, the previous goes out of it was 1459, and based upon right there. Yeah, what is? Can you tell me what? How did that number? That number is capital assets that were purchased, and it's this is a projection, right?
Are you talking what?
Balance.
No, hang on. We got three numbers. Dave, which one's specific? 'Cause
Okay, we're looking at
All
the
right.
reserve. We're looking at historical. We're looking at first column. Looking at the leading up to the balance for this year. Okay, so this year we are going to transfer $1,459,732
To the operating fund.
to the operating fund to buy stuff.
Right.
Yes, sir.
That's accurate. Okay, I would like to know what stuff we're buying based upon the capital budget that we approved. Capital, because it doesn't really add up to that. If you take the actual capital, it said it was going to be 1,675,618. So we spent less. And I have a reason for asking that. Because it was my belief last year that we had, told by Tom Stouse with a better memory, that we had placeholders of 500,000 and 145,000 for the White Horse Park bathrooms. Don't worry about that. We're not going to spend.
Well, let me help with that. I might be able to help clarify a lot of this real quick. If you recall yesterday, I said I had capital expenditures for the year because it was one of the things that was requested. And I don't use Mr. Stouts as my reference point. I use Art Carmine as our controller. Just FYI, I mean, that's what we pay our staff to do. So, with that being said, what I've provided you with is, and actually Art and I actually went through this. These were a list of the capital items approved in the budget last year. The highlighted items, okay, are the ones that are yet to, let's see, full reserve. These are the ones that we do not intend to spend this year. Okay, the replacement items that we're not spending on. Road program, okay, of 200. Now remember, that's money collected from casino funds. We didn't spend it this year, but it is in next year. It's combined in next year's budget, so we have more roads. Okay, police building, $500,000. Again, no expenditure on it because we don't have a plan yet. So what we did was reduce that and put it in this year's budget at $75,000, so we can start our planning process. And that came out of discussions we had. We want to do a little better job planning. And on page 2, the sports core pool resurfacing and deck. We had budgeted to spend those items. and we decide to push that project into next year, and based on our knowledge of the expenditures we had on our recent, we increase the amount.
Right.
And they're in the budget.
Okay, herein my question.
What's that?
And herein is my question.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at this, and it says the transfer to operate amount that we're going to expend is $1,459,732.
That's the contribution.
Oops.
That's the contribution to the reserve. Down the bottom would be
$1,494,545.
Right. Okay.
Got it, Dave?
Yeah,
Capital additions negative.
That's for this year. Actually,
I think he's talking about the previous
I'm
the
talking
year
about
we're
the
in
previous
now.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the
That
transfer to operating is 1.4. This is, and I have a reason for going back to the previous year because that tells you what balance we get to start of this year. And we're not there yet, but this is the projection.
Right.
So 1,459,732.
Right.
Now, basically, unless I'm mistaken, you have taken out $650,000 that you're not spending out of the historical reserve.
850.
850.
700.
No, you're not following me. I'm in the historical reserve column. The 200 is out of the road reserve. So scratch the 200 that you're not spending.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Okay?
Fair
All
enough.
right, 650.
So 650. Yeah, unless I'm mistaken. 650 from, look at the bottom, 1,675,618 will come to 1,025,618 going into operating. Whereas you have 1,459,732 going to operating.
Amazingly enough, I did that a couple of months ago. This was just done the day before yesterday. This. I had to bring it up to actuals of what we had actually spent so far and what we still intend to spend up through April 30. That's why that doesn't agree with this number, because I did this number months ago.
So this is a bad number? Your capital additions is a bad number?
I have to
I don't mean bad. I mean, I'm premature. How about that?
Incorrect.
It's a premature number?
Would have to revise it.
That's so.
Yeah.
And that would be revised to the number that Dave put out, the 1.675 million less.
We've got to go back and validate it.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
We just have to revise it again
Okay.
because this is the most current revision. We got the budget finished. We sat and went over in detail to make sure which ones we felt were confident we could get done this year and which ones we didn't, and reasons behind it. And we gave you the list of it, all inclusive, and then highlight the ones we weren't. Gave you explanation why.
Now, that would have made sense to me if, first of all, the numbers, I mean, this is correct, then this is wrong, it has to be revised, okay? All
But
right.
this was you understand this was created a couple
Okay.
months ago.
But,
This is
but here's why would this catch my eye? And it caught my eye because I look at it and I say, you know what? This includes $500,000. The number 1675 included $500,000 for police station, which I believed incorrectly, as it probably turns out, that we had voted not to, because we never discussed it, never approved. We didn't have a plan for it, and 145, same reason for the bathrooms. Okay, now I'm told, well, no, they're really in the budget. Okay, I didn't think that. But the point is, okay, so it's changed. I was wrong. They were, even though I was led to believe they weren't. But on the other hand, the police station, you didn't remember that conversation from last year?
Mr. Stevens, your mistake. Agreed. So now what's your question? You're saying now you keep back.
Now you
I'm trying to answer you, but I don't know what to
Well,
answer.
what I'm basically pointing out is that when we put money that was never intended to be spent in that budget, and I believe was the case in both of them, then we're showing a number, a remaining number that's a good deal less, $650,000 less than we actually had. In other words, you will add eventually when you correct these $650,000 to the bottom line,
To the bottom
of the
line,
historical
yeah. No.
reserve.
There's no money collected for reserve until we spend money. So no, it doesn't. There's no change. There's no fundamental change. It doesn't affect
the way I understand
We
the
put the
math.
money in there. There's no money in there.
The way I
Put
understand
the money in.
It's not put in like that.
That's yeah.
The money put in would hold it back for a side. The money we put in is the estimated depreciation for all the assets purchased, last year.
I understand.
Okay, and that's what we put in.
I understand.
All right. Then you make up the capital schedule, and that's supposed to be what's theoretically supposed to come out.
Yes.
Okay. If it doesn't come out, it stays in.
It stays.
Yes, and the bottom line reserve figure goes up, correct? Because you spent less.
Bottom line
Because
is
we
it's
spent
shown
less.
Because you spent less.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
So basically what Man's saying is that your 4.7 million figure could be higher.
It is higher.
It's going to
Could be higher.
It's going to be
Could be
higher,
a
but
lot
not
higher.
650,000.
Not
And this-
650,000.
You know what? And this point,
No.
okay, I don't care about mathematics so much, but the point is, somebody that looks and goes to to our budget book after it's approved, and goes on the website, is going to see a number that is significantly less than the number that it really is. And the reason that makes a difference is because it gives the impression more money or less money than we do have. And it definitely does. In my opinion, it influences the amount of money that we still have to put in, which goes back to my original
I
argument. I mean, that's it in a nutshell.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's like you said, it's philosophical.
It was that way.
Yeah, it's a
It's
we
philosophical.
should have a $4 million cushion, fund, whatever you want to call it, or we should have a $1 million cushion
It is
fund,
not
whatever you want to call it.
philosophical to the people that are taking $50 out of their pocket.
I understand that, David. I understand.
Let me just say, we just spent money for a very intense reserve study, which we're going to be getting soon, which will allow us to, I'm supporting what Bob said, we will have that information. You also have to realize when you look at it's like looking at a savings account in the bank and saying, I got $10,000 in the bank. Forgetting the fact that I know I got to replace my water heater and I got to get my car repaired and the roof has to be fixed, and I already know that. I don't know exactly let me finish. I don't know exactly how much the water heater is going to be or how much the car repair is going to be. We've got a sense of it. So in a sense, it is not officially allocated for that work, but that money is in there. So you better have an Excel spreadsheet, or you better have something written down that says, I'm going to use some of that money here and some of that money here. Right now, today, we've already had discussions. I know one of them is the Beach Club, which is somewhere around $500,000, which we're probably going to escalate into this budget. Tom and I have already talked about this building. When the hell are we going to do something about this? So you're going to escalate some of that money into this. So you can't sit there. Well, you can, but in my opinion, you're not correct. You can't sit there and say, we've got $4.7 million, and it's unallocated. It's not meant for anything.
Okay.
The reality is, in our brain, we're sitting, freezing our ass off in a building, and we can't ignore that it's got to be addressed at some point.
We've taken
That's the point. That's all I'm
Good
going to
point.
say when it comes to that, is when people say, now, to the point Dave just made, as far as it makes it look like a higher number, I agree with you. And that's why I agreed with you for this budget to not put 500 in, for studying the police department, making it research money. We already agreed you don't put the big ticket number in anymore. We already agreed to that. That was exactly correct. And I also agree that it makes it look like it's more money. But in the end, let's get the reserve study. Let's figure out where we are. And we can't keep acting as if we've never spent any of the legacy. I've been holding this back for more than a minute. You can't keep acting like we've never spent any of the legacy money, so we've collected $5 million when you already, in a heartbeat, we added up 5.9. Okay? That's all I'm getting at. To me, let's work through this. Once we get to reserve issues, let's work through it, and let's get smart about it.
Keep this one point,
Okay.
and your analogy was perfect and dead on. Keep that in mind. That person that has that $10,000 may be on a fixed income and may not have a whole heck of a lot of cash or money available to increase that $10,000 to replace all those items that are going to cost 20. So therefore, they have to make choices and they have to set priorities. Respect that, Tom.
I do.
I know you do.
Absolutely.
I know you do. You're a good man. Not everybody out there has the deep pockets like you do, and perhaps some other people sitting around this table to afford these kinds of things. And we as a board have to be very cognizant of this. And all we're saying is Bob's doing the job he's asked to be done, and we're trying to direct him to set those priorities that are important to all the folks in Ocean Pines, and let's move forward as Bill wants to do. Let's move forward and let's make some things happen within this community, within the resources that we have, without hurting people. That's all. That's all.
If you have,
However, if you cut back this year and then you want to try to do something next year, then you got to go back. What happened years ago? $150. And then all of a sudden, the next year they found something else to try to, artificially, reduce the assessment and all that kind of stuff. And then we had to go back for another 150. Okay, over 5 years, but it's still $150. So if those people that you're talking about are living today off of this money that's already in there, and then you give them $80 back, and then next year you got to go. What's easier for them to do? A couple bucks a year, or next year hit them for $150?
Yeah, that's something I've thought about. That's one of the reasons that I don't.
Right now that that's happening.
Okay,
that's
going on. I mean,
Not going to go to Capitol. We're going to go to Capitol.
Remember that song. Good me.
I knew if I called you, I could.
That's my favorite.
All right, I told you that would work. Do it again.
You could beat that horse. You could beat that horse till midnight. Let's move on.
That's what he's got. I mean, he does have to make hard choices. And he's going to look at what he needs and what he really requires. I mean, this amount of money, $1 million a year put into this fund, without knowing specifically what your requirement is and what you have to spend it. Now, Bill, I've worried about, I don't like to give and take away. I've never, ever, 8 years, said we're going to reduce successes. I've never run an election saying that, never. But on the other hand, I'm at a point now where I'm looking at how we've spent money and how we're collecting money. And I have a plan from our general manager, which looks like spending a lot more money without a set of requirements, without any. Yes, I'm talking about that, of course. And I believe right now is the time to cut back. It's a modest amount. It's $50 a year out of this. We're still going to have over $5 million in here, and we don't know how to spend $5 million.
I do. I'm ready to spend.
Yeah.
All right, so can we get on the
Everybody's had their say.
Give me a bill.
Go ahead. Okay, that's my pitch. Let me put it this way. It's
Point taken.
a deal breaker for me.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Okay. Again, 7 people.
Wet.
All right. So
I'm not going to vote. I'm not going to vote for them.
We heard that last year.
all right, with everyone, can I jump to Cap? I say jump. No.
This is going to be a long
Yeah,
time.
I'm sorry, maybe I
I
misunderstood.
think capital does require, well, I don't care. I can stay here.
I thought we were doing the whole
gotta go
after
to
the
Baltimore.
meeting.
I
When
gotta
you order dinner,
Like,
I
what
can
do you
stay
want,
here
Carol?
all night.
I'm sorry, did I misunderstand?
You have to go to
I don't want
Baltimore.
dinner, I want a
I gotta
drink.
go to Baltimore.
You have to go.
I don't have to go to Baltimore. I'm just tired of Baltimore.
That's an honest statement, man.
Yeah.
Hey, so,
We should have taken off, right?
really perfect.
Wait a minute.
I felt bad.
Wait,
Terry,